Hey guys, today I am in Port Aransas, Texas, a small coastal community on the South Texas Gulf Coast. I am at Leonabelle Turnbull Birding Center, which is one of several birding areas that they have in Port Aransas. And to be quite honest, it's one of my favorite places to bird. I spend a lot of time here, particularly during spring migration. I've spent a fair amount of time here during fall and had really great luck every time I come here. It is beautifully laid out. From a photography perspective, I really like it because it's got a very narrow tree line and bush line, and it's also very low, so it allows me to get close to the birds without disturbing them, and there's really not a lot of places they can go to hide. So it's just a great space for photography, and it is a migrant trap during spring migration, and so you will just see a huge variety of species here. With the warblers and the vireos, lots of flycatchers, just lots of great variety. And the community of Port Aransas has done a fabulous job in developing these birding spots to make them wonderful habitats for the wildlife, but also great stops for birders. And it's a nice example of a community committing itself to nature tourism, but understanding that you have to cater to nature first. And the bird, got to get the birds here and the birders will come. And so they've done a wonderful job of planting a variety of plants. There's a little hummingbird up there flying around. I'm seeing lots of hummers today. They like those yellow flowers. They've planted a variety of plants to attract just different kinds of bird species. They've got the flowering plants, obviously, for the hummingbirds, lots of bees and butterflies. They have the leafy plants for the insect eaters, the warblers and vireos. Because it's marshy, they do naturally attract quite a bit of the flycatchers. And they also get the shorebirds. There's a lot of herons and egrets, roseate spoonbills, sandpipers, those types of birds you can see just over the brush line. And they also have some fruit trees. They have a mulberry tree here, a couple of mulberry trees actually, that will attract the orioles during migration. I've seen Baltimore orioles, I've seen orchard orioles. And again, because it's such a beautifully laid out place, it's very easy to see them, get close, get great photos without disturbing them. That's the important thing. We don't want to disturb the wildlife. So as many of you know, this area was hit by a Category 4 hurricane about a year ago. It's October, so Harvey hit about 13 months ago, and it was just head-on, hit this area head-on, and really caused an enormous amount of devastation. From the perspective of the birding centers, it flattened the marshes, it ripped out a lot of the bushes and trees, and also destroyed the boardwalk. This area that we're coming up to here is where the boardwalk used to be, and it would go out into this marshy area, which doesn't really look like a marshy area right now. That all that blue water used to be marsh. It's kind of crazy to look at it and realize how much it's changed. But that's nature. It is what it is. And, you know, the birds and wildlife don't seem to mind too much. People, I think, seem to mind more than not. There are some alligators in there. I haven't seen them today. There are two. But they're usually lurking around there somewhere. But as far as the boardwalk goes, the city is finishing up the grant process. They have received funding for it, and they are accepting bids if they have not closed that already. I don't recall off the top of my head what the timeline is specifically for that. But the plan is to begin construction in November and have, God willing, in cooperation from the weather, the boardwalk up and running again by June of 2019. And my understanding is, now things are subject to change, but the last time I saw a plan was they want the boardwalk to connect to Charlie's Pasture, which is another birding location here on the island, and it's just across the way. You can see those blue buildings over there are the, whoops, as I fall while I'm talking and walking. Those blue buildings over there are the community park, and Charlie's Pasture butts up against that and then goes off in the distance into the marsh area. There's some wonderful boardwalks, and they want to be able to connect the boardwalk here at Leonabelle with the boardwalk at Charlie's Pasture. So it'll be a wonderful area to explore and have it all interconnected. Paradise Pond is also very close to here, so there are 3 just fabulous birding spots right within a stone's throw of each other, which again makes it a great destination because you're not just coming to Port Aransas to go to Leonabelle or Charlie's Pasture or Paradise Pond. You're coming here to enjoy all of them in addition to ones that they have heading towards Corpus. They've got Mustang Island State Park is in that direction, and they've got Corpus has done a wonderful job of developing some birding areas. So from a regional perspective, it's just a wonderful, wonderful place to come. And one addition that they made right after the hurricane was they installed this strip. Let's see if I can get a little closer. And this was Daryl Cochran, friend and fellow photographer, was responsible for taking the initiative and getting the strip installed, working with the Nature Center folks here. And they had it installed before spring migration this last year. And it was a wonderful, wonderful attraction for the birds. I didn't spend a lot of time sitting at it because I don't have a lot of patience. I don't sit still really well, which is kind of ironic when you figure I'm a birder because that requires tremendous patience. But the folks that sat there got some really wonderful pictures and a lot of traffic through there. Interestingly, the number one comment I hear from people is they don't feel like the birding is as good here, or they're concerned that the birding is not as good here since the hurricane. And this place sentimentally is very, very near and dear to me. It's one of the very first places I went for spring migration where I really discovered this love for birding that I have. And so after the hurricane, I paid really close attention to not only what I was seeing, but what other people were seeing. And interestingly, everything that was being reported in South Padre Island, in Galveston, places like Quintana, they were seeing here. And so I would say that the birding was as good, if not better, here than it was anyplace else. The big difference was they didn't have the birders. But I think that'll change. The further we get from the hurricane, the more people to realize that the place is wonderful. It's coming back. It's different, but that doesn't mean it's bad. But it is just a really wonderful place to bird. So I hope you enjoyed this little walking tour. Please subscribe to my channel to see more tours. My plan is to continue to add to them as I go different places. And at the end of this video, I'll post some of the different pictures I've taken of species in this area. Thanks for joining me.